Where do you find new original ideas for your art when you run out of them? What to draw, what to paint, how to come up with compositions that work. Today, I'm going to share my secrets with you. I've always had an overactive imagination, which did cause quite a few problems in childhood, as I was the typical child who was gone with the fairies, as some say. So I rarely lack in ideas, and today I'm going to share with you where I get these ideas from and how they come to me. I very much feel that my art has a dreamlike atmosphere. The elements in the paintings very often don't really make sense in the same context. Sometimes no action is provided or explained. The reason is because I take inspiration from the structure of dreams that very often makes no sense. It's nonsensical. So remembering your dreams, writing them down first thing in the morning, or creating a rough sketch of them, even better, is one of the first things you can do to get ideas. If you dream of an animal, for example, a fox, let's say, you can paint a portrait with a fox leaping across the forehead or buried in the hair, its snout perched on the shoulder, a bird whispering a secret into an ear. If you dream of travelling, you can add paper airplanes. You might think, wait a second, Fiona, these things make no sense. Where is the relationship? When you place the nonsensical nature of dreams on your paper or canvas, the different elements will automatically create a story. A connection is immediately formed and a story is immediately told. It might not be the same story you are telling or you intend to tell, because it might not be the same story for every viewer. But that, in my opinion, is the best part. By painting this way, you're almost starting a conversation with yourself and with people who will admire your artwork. If you like showing it, that is completely up to you. Art is expression and dialogue, and this is one of its most powerful traits. So embrace it, even if it seems like it makes no sense. It will always make sense to somebody. To make this concept easier to understand, I will add that I sometimes think of my pieces as jigsaws, and then it all boils down to what elements do you like? A flower, a bird, a night sky, the shape of a branch, or even the shape of a scarf or a funnel, which appear quite often in my art to direct the viewer's eye or my own eye. I take all the elements that I love and I position them together on the paper as if I were putting together the pieces of a jigsaw so that they perfectly fit together snugly. This game that I played started with the doodling practice, which I'm sure we've all done. So if you feel like you often are lacking ideas and struggle with composition too, start small. A small square piece of paper the size of a post-it note, and fill it up with elements you like, trying to get them to all touch, not float mid-air, if you know what I mean. Aim to fill up that small piece of paper completely. Think about shapes, not only objects and living beings. You can position a starry night or a field of poppies in a triangle or in a funnel. If you find it hard, it's okay to allow the elements to overlap too. This technique helps both with coming up with ideas, and it also will allow you to grow in leaps and bounds when it comes to composition. Remember that art very often is sparked by feeling, not an object, a person, or a happening in everyday life. It's not always easy to come up with ideas to express a feeling, but this method will take on a life of its own and will guide you in the right direction. These topics and so much more are addressed in my Patreon community, in our live and recorded weekly sessions on Tuesdays, where we co-sketch, or twice a month when we get together and I guide the members through a whole painting in a sort of mini workshop. Not that mini anymore, sometimes they last like 3 hours. Everything's recorded, so if you can't make the live, you get the recording. It's all very informal, fun and chatty, and we have literally become friends. Friends from all over the world. I don't want to sound like I'm gushing, but there are so many lovely, caring and amazing people over there. I feel so blessed. Please know you can join us too, just by clicking the link in the description box below this video. There's a whole world on the other side of that link, believe me, and you will not regret it if you join us. So I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to be keeping this part in, or maybe whether I will say this in the, what's that? No. So I'm not sure whether I will be keeping this part in or whether I will be saying it in the voiceover of the video. But sometimes watercolour paintings or any kind of painting won't go as you want it to go. But with watercolour, it's more difficult because there's no room for covering up your mistakes because it is a transparent medium. But you can still somehow recuperate. For example, with this piece, I was going towards a landscape, a snowy landscape. And I didn't think about what I was doing. I kind of thought I knew what I was doing, but I should have had a reference image. Whereas I didn't, because I thought since I've painted snowy landscapes, snowy woodlands in the past, that I'd be able to just wing it this time. Well, no, observation is always key. So what I did is I kind of transformed it into kind of a dreamy, wintry woodland scape or a landscape with a bit of not fantasy elements in it, but of course you wouldn't have a fox flying above your head and another one. Kind of elements that don't really go together, but also go together. So I'll show you what I mean. Let me quickly turn the camera around. Okay, so I've decided to make this area up here night sky. And I'm going to probably make it darker, and I'm going to have some stars in there. I have a fox up here, and I have a fox down here. And I think this kind of fits in well as a composition because it draws attention to the eye, but also draws attention towards the fox. It allows the eye to travel. It kind of guides the eye across the top of the painting and close to an area where I want the focus to be. The eyes and the fox. And I still think that I will be able to get that idea of a wintry woodland in there, even if my intention initially was to go towards a snowy woodland. Some things are not meant to be, and we can just kind of recuperate like this by going over them with a darker colour. For example, in my case I wanted to have like light shining through the trees here. That is not going to happen. So that is what it's going to be. Because I was getting a little bit frustrated thinking this is not turning out what it was going to be, what it was meant to be. And I was getting very negative about it. So I thought, okay, let's change direction. So I did, and this is where I'm now. Going on from here. Yeah, it happens to all of us, so don't worry about it. Just believe and just stick at it. Other ways I get ideas are slightly more conventional. I get ideas from films or movies that I love. I love capturing the specific scene, for example, the moment before the kiss between Count Vlad and Mina in Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. You should watch that movie if you haven't, by the way. Harry Potter, Pride and Prejudice, the list goes on. It's also easier because you will be familiar with a character, not only from a still reference photo, but you will have observed them in movement, and this will give you so much more information about them. This will aid you in getting a better likeness. I get ideas from the reinterpretation of fairy tales, by adding a different twist to them, like making Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf friends. That is a favourite one. I've revisited a few times. Recently on Patreon, we dedicated a whole spread to the Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen, and the results were magical. Everyone did such an amazing job. You can get ideas from your surroundings. This can be a little harder as you will have to work fast because it's going to be a scenery or setting in motion, changing all the time, constantly. But working fast will also make your art looser and it will hone your fine motor skills. So that's a great reason to pick up this challenge. I also love collecting books about botanicals, insects, trees and woodland animals. These are treasure troves for ideas and you can get them very cheap in thrift stores and second-hand markets. Ideas are everywhere if you open up your heart and mind to them. In a way, I feel it would look better if this area were covered up. If the night sky covered up this whole, woodland area. I think it would frame her face better and just have the two foxes over here and over there. But again, this started off as something completely different. Well, not completely different, but a different concept, and then it evolved. And that sometimes can happen in painting processes. And I don't know whether that would be a little too overwhelming, but I also think these trunks over here to the top left corner of my block of watercolour paper are a little bit distracting. I might leave it like this, and you can let me know in the comments what you think. Or maybe I'll do a photo shoot of this now, and then I will cover this area up afterwards, and you can tell me whether you thought it was prettier before or after. By the way, where do you get your ideas? I'd really love to hear from you in the comments. And after this, I will just say goodbye, and I will see you all next Sunday. Bye for now.